Let's do it. Welcome to the Gridiron Gods, everybody. I am David Bartolomucci, a.k.a. D Busy. Joining me today on our first ever podcast, the man who sees sleepers in his sleep, is a first to a fire sale kind of guy. He graduated with a PhD in fantasy football. The Don DeGaleone, Dante Miller, D Mills, D's nuts.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Before we get started, I just want to say follow us on Instagram, Twitter, for all your social media updates. You know, you can find our podcast on YouTube and Anchor app. Weekly updates on everything
Football. So I just want to touch on a couple things here, like about who we are here at Gridiron Gods. We're all things football all the time. All your NCAA, NFL, news and updates, player coverage, and fantasy football advice. Please come to the gods if you have any questions regarding fantasy football.
Let the gods answer your prayers.
We are there for you. So, without further ado, let's get into the big game. Super Bowl 54, 31-20 Chiefs over the 49ers. Tell me a little bit about how the Niners got to the Super Bowl, Dante.
All right, so Niners faced the Vikings in the divisional round where they beat them 27-10. You know, there was a clear presence of the run game in that game with Tevin Coleman, 22 touches, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. Let's not forget total combined rushes 42 in the game. So big run presence in that game. Then they moved on to play the Green Bay Packers. They beat them 37-20, which gained them a trip to the Super Bowl. That game also run heavy. Mostert with 29 attempts, 220 rushing yards, and 4 touchdowns. So clearly this run game has brought them to the Super Bowl.
That's their identity. That's just 49ers football by the way the whole season played out, really.
Yeah,
so they
we
stuck to
saw
their
it
guns.
all regular season, stuck to it in those 2 games, and they earned themselves a spot there.
So those are your NFC champions. We're going to take it on over to the AFC side now with the Chiefs, how they got to the Super Bowl. So in the divisional round, I mean, it's a pretty unforgettable game. They played the Houston Texans in an absolute barn burner. That game was 51-31 for the Chiefs, coming back from a 24-point deficit at one
impressive.
point, which is unbelievable in itself. I mean, quick look at the stats there. You had Mahomes just absolutely going off for 5 touchdowns through the air. He also had a little bit of help with the run game. They added a touchdown. 2 touchdowns with Damian Williams, who had unbelievable playoffs. And then you go to the next game that they played, the AFC Championship, when they went up against the Tennessee Titans, who were a little bit of a Cinderella this past playoff. And they, answered the bell again. They went down by 10 as they did all playoff. And Mahomes went off for another 3 touchdowns in that game. Had a little bit of help again from the run game, but Tyreek Hill added 2 touchdowns in that game, as well as a little bit of help from Sammy Watkins. I mean, maybe not a little bit of help. He put up 114 yards with a touchdown, so he did his part. And then you find the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So we had Sunday's game.
So let's look at the first drive of this game. Patrick Mahomes, he comes out.
Yep.
You know, they run the ball once and 2 incomplete passes. There's a 3 and out. We're seeing this 49ers defense early.
Pressure.
So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, we got a game on our hands. You know, big stop. They come back. 49ers drive the field. They kick a field goal.
Yeah.
They go up by 3.
And they had some in that first. Let's get into that first drive a little bit for the Niners. Some really cool gadget plays. Deebo Samuel running a few end arounds and whatnot.
Yeah, we saw the run game early in the game. You know, like you said, Deebo.
Yeah.
Just very impressive. He had the most rushing yards for a receiver
Super Bowl
in
history.
Super Bowl history, which is an impressive.
So it took 54
record.
Super Bowls for that to be set, which is impressive, like you said. And I mean, so you get each team getting the ball once. You see the nerves on one end, and then you just seen almost like a calm. That was like almost like a calm drive by the Niners, right? So Mahomes gets the ball back after that field goal. And we're looking, okay, let's see what kind of answer he has. And they drive down the field, and they get a touchdown. Biggest play, I think, from that was the hit he took when he was running for that first
on
down.
the 5-yard line.
Yeah, where he fumbles
Looked
it.
like he maybe hesitated a bit, and he got,
I was looking for the John Elway helicopter over the goal line. I was really
thought he was
hoping
going
for that.
for it, but, does that hit maybe
I don't know.
change the game in a way of, maybe Mahomes is a little shook up after that?
I thought
'Cause we
that-
didn't see much of him until he
Later
came out
in the
in the
game.
second half.
Yeah,
right?
that's when
So-
he made more of his impact. But that hit, I was thinking that as the rest of the first half played out, I was actually in my head, I'm like, you know what? That was a pretty solid hit. Like, I mean, no one really spoke about that, if it caused him any kind of discomfort. It was never brought up after the game, so I guess we'll never know. But in the moment, I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe he was shook from that because he got laid out. So at that point, we've got a 7-3 game. The Chiefs get the ball back on an interception thrown by Jimmy G to start the second quarter. They go down, they get a field goal to take a 10-3 lead at that point. 49ers get the ball back. They drive the field. They get 7. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so on this drive, they're still using that run game. So Mostert, he has a nice first down run. Coleman has a nice first down run for 10, 11 yards.
Yeah. And even Debo's getting involved. So, and I think Kittle even got his hands on the ball in that.
Yeah,
in that
and we're
as
still
well.
seeing that 49ers offense that we've seen all year long.
Yeah. And I mean, then they get that touchdown to end that drive to Juszczyk, a nice 15-yard pass from Jimmy G. We got a 10-10 game. So after that, we're looking at a little bit of a lull in the end of that second quarter, but the Niners get the ball back with 1 minute left, and we're really seeing some maybe mismanagements of the timeouts by Kyle Shanahan, because he kind of just called a couple run plays, and then we had Jeffrey Wilson, of all guys, just rip off a 20-yard gain, and he sets them up at about the 40 of their side of half. And then he calls his first timeout.
Finally,
with
calls a
15 seconds
timeout.
left.
15 seconds left.
Yeah.
Then we have that play to George Kittle.
Yeah.
Where
Big
called
play.
for a PI.
Offensive PI with a push off on the DB. And I mean, all season long this has been a weird one, right? Like tight ends or receivers pushing off. They call this one against the offense.
Yeah, so
Usually
I don't
they
know,
let it
I
go.
don't know if I like that call just because it's a Super Bowl. These guys are trying to win.
Yeah.
You know, they're doing everything they can. For a little bit of contact like that, in my opinion, I think there needs to be more there to call it. You
Yeah.
look back to the Minnesota game against the Saints
Yeah.
when Kyle Rudolph catches that ball in the end zone.
In overtime.
That was not even reviewed. That wasn't even questioned. That was a touchdown.
Yeah, so I see your point for that for sure. And so after that, they just kneel it out, and we're headed to halftime, 10-10. We got J-Lo and Shakira hitting the stage. So, which was entertaining. I love that little bit by Shakira. We had a lot of booty shaking at halftime.
Some good booty shaking, you know.
Definitely
It
in
was,
the playbook for them.
Yes.
So, thanks a lot for joining us in that first half of the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back after we take a little break. Welcome back to the Gridiron Gods. It's your man again, David Bartolomucci, joined by Dante Miller. As always, for this foreseeable future. I mean, this is the first show, so as always, I guess, in the future, you know, we're going to be doing it live every time. So, we're coming out of halftime, Super Bowl 54, and like we were saying earlier, the whole thing with Kittle and the incomplete, well, the pass interference on the offense, we're coming out on the other end of that. San Fran gets the ball, so not all is bad after that happening.
Yeah, so scores tied 10-10. One question I have is, what do you think was going through Patrick Mahomes' head at this point? Because this 49ers defense has held him to 10 points in the first half. They put up a significant amount of points. Like I said, what do you think is going through his head at this point?
I mean, at this point, you're looking at a guy who, he's a steady Eddie type of guy. I mean, just even looking back in the past in the playoffs, coming from 10 down every single game.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to get flustered.
He's
too
very
much,
cool. He's very cool.
Yeah.
And, I mean, his mindset coming out of the half must be, all right, well, we got a half left to go win a Lombardi. We can't really dwell too much on what happened in the first half, even good and bad, whatever. Other plays that he probably wanted back, absolutely. But he's probably thinking, you know what? There's still 30 left. Let's go. Let's go win.
And one thing too, he did it in the divisional game.
Yep.
He did it in the championship game. I think what's going through his head is, damn right, I can do it in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and he has the weapons too, right? Like, I mean, you got to think of it too. Both teams came in fairly healthy. So he's got to be in that mindset of, you know what, I got my guys. Like, if you would have told me at the beginning of the season I'd be here in the second half of the Super Bowl, all my weapons are healthy, we're ready to go. Like, if I'm him, I feel confident. I'm not flustered. Like, I mean, some people probably are thinking, oh, well, you're not playing your absolute best game. I mean, did you not hear Troy Aikman on the commentary most of the night? Like, just, oh, he's not playing great. He's having a terrible game. That's something else that I noticed too, just kind of as I was watching the game.
First drive coming out of second half, the 49ers drive down the field. They put up 3.
Yep.
Next drive, Mahomes comes out. He fumbles. They end up getting the ball back. Mahomes gets the ball again, and he throws an interception.
Right on the next play.
Yeah.
So I think if you're looking at that, so now his mindset to me is changing a little bit because it's like, okay, now we're down 3. It's still early in the second half, but maybe he's thinking he's got to start making some big plays downfield. He's holding on to the ball a little bit too long, giving that big boy Nick Bosa, some time to get back there, and the rest of the gang, because, I mean, let's give some credit to the San Francisco defensive line, like, unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. So he didn't have it easy, too, in terms of the pressures that he was facing all night.
And at one point, it almost seems like both teams switched. Like Kansas City offense just turned on.
Yeah.
And it almost seemed like at the same time, the 49ers defense just shut down.
Yeah, and that was after this next touchdown. So after that pick, they went down and they scored 7.
Yeah, well, they had to.
So there's no, I'm saying with San Fran. So if we're going back to like after the fumble and then the INT, San Fran scores another 7.
Yeah.
20-10.
Yeah.
Then you're saying their offense gets going.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, so, but I think like at that point it's do or die for Patrick. You're down 10, right? In the fourth quarter, it was about fourth quarter.
Well, even before that, they just had to punt again. Like, they didn't get it going until the 7-minute mark in the fourth quarter. So there was a time period after that after that touchdown by San Fran where nobody was scoring. So, I mean, positive for Kansas City and good on their D, because then they started to finally get a couple stops because they didn't really do that too much.
Well, then we get into, like, as we were saying before, he started using his weapons, the guys that he relied on all season. He started throwing the ball to Kelsey. He started trying to get the ball to Hill in open space. There was a huge play to Tyreek Hill.
Down the left sideline.
Down the left side. He was wide open. They're taking off chunks of yardage. And
that was a game breaker. That without that play, I don't think they come back.
Well, and then at that point, like I said, it was almost like the 49ers defense just shut down.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened there. If that was, maybe it was some play calling. I mean, I don't know if you've been seeing what's going around on like social media and stuff of Richard Sherman just completely getting beat on the inside.
He got torched
to Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, the inside release where Watkins said, he said that I was watching game film from 2 weeks prior in the championship game that Sherman was playing in, the NFC championship game. And he's saying, well, I was watching Devontae Adams and he killed Sherman on an inside release. And you put those two plays side by side, and I mean, good on Watkins for studying up and knowing who he's going against. I mean, you should be at that level in this game. But, I mean, you're noticing that man coverage and you hit the burners right off the line. And, I mean, that was right before they scored to go up 27 to 20.
Yeah, and Watkins is a guy that, you know,
24
you don't
to
hear
20,
too
sorry.
much, right, about him.
No.
He's there, but he's not there.
But he's got big
because
playability.
he's behind Tyreek Hill. He's behind Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
You know, he's not Mahomes' top guy to go to.
But that's a dangerous third option.
It is.
Very dangerous.
It is, because he makes plays, and it's clear. Like, the pressure didn't get to him. He's in a Super Bowl, and he's making catches like that. He's beaten arguably one of the best corners in the league.
For a long time. That guy's been playing high level for a long time.
Yeah. So.
And I mean I agree with you on that play. Like, you kind of got to have that deep, that safety. Maybe you don't play man in that situation.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you're not playing man in that situation.
So, San Francisco gave up 21 points just in the fourth quarter.
In 7 minutes of that fourth quarter.
And we saw that happen in the Houston game, where they they were down by 21 points. 24 points.
Yeah.
And they came back to win. So, I don't think
they were built for it, maybe. Trailing in the previous games.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe that's the way they... I don't know. It just seems like that's the way they do things.
Some guys play better when the pressure's on, man.
Yeah,
and you know
definitely.
what? I want to go back to maybe what you just said earlier about the Niners defense. Fatigue. Let's not forget, like, when the Chiefs are rolling on offense, when they are rolling, that's a fast team. So you got these defensive guys who are going back, trying to make plays on the ball, getting torched over the middle a lot by Kelce. And then they got to scramble back, and they got to do it all over again. So I'm going to put a little bit of that 21 points. I'm going to hang it on fatigue. And I'm not making an excuse. When you watch the Chiefs defense or offense play at 1,000 miles per hour, I mean, what are you going to do? You're at their mercy, right? And we saw it happen. We saw the most explosive offense outplay the second best defense in the NFL this year. And I mean, you don't see that often, because Super Bowls are usually won by the defensive team.
Yeah, I was very surprised to see them crack that late in the game as well.
Yeah.
But definitely tired. I think Kansas City had more snaps on offense than the 49ers, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a few things that factor in there, but just a very shocking ending, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you don't expect it.
It's the game everyone wants to see.
Yeah.
You know, back
coming
and
down
forth,
to the end.
Comes down to the end.
Well, let's think of other Super Bowls that are like that. Obviously, the Giants and the Patriots in a couple. The Steelers and the Arizona Cardinals, when they went down to the wire, and Santonio Holmes is making that toe tapper. And I mean, like, we remember those games right off the top of our head, because those are what great Super Bowls are made of. It's not when you think of, I mean, no discredit to teams that absolutely have big games, but think about back to the Seattle-Denver game when it was over at halftime. Like, no, I don't remember that game.
Nobody remembers the games that aren't entertaining. That's
absolutely.
The thing, right?
So it was good to see.
Yeah,
and I mean, I'm impartial on this game. Like, I mean, I'm a Giants fan. We're going through some tough times, but hopefully Danny Dimes and Saquon can get it rolling. So I just wanted to see what we saw on Sunday, which was a game that comes down to the fourth quarter. So I was completely pleased with the end result.
Well, and one thing I would like to have seen more of late in the game was that 49ers run offense that
Yes.
they used so much, and it was so beneficial to them. And, you know, I don't know if they were trying to put the game in the hands of Jimmy G and hope that he makes some big plays, you know, use their receivers. You know,
Yeah.
they don't have bad receivers either, right?
But
Deebo Samuel, who was...
But he was utilized in the run game, and he was
which
phenomenal.
was- yes.
A lot of
That-
jet sweeps, a lot of action around the line of scrimmage. I
Like-
did like that.
Yes. But, again, I wanted to see more of that run game.
Yeah,
And
don't shy away
I think
from what
that's
works.
what got them in the end, was that the 49ers, they just couldn't do what they normally do,
It
right?
comes down to this one simple saying: if it's not broke, don't fix it. It's a simple saying, but
Yeah.
this is, I mean, case in point. If you look at the NFC Championship game, Garoppolo threw the ball 8 times. 8 times all game.
Yeah.
It's not like they've been relying on Kittle and Debo and Emmanuel Sanders to make these plays. It's been, like you said, the running game. Mostert. I mean, you had a guy coming off 29 carries, 220 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's not a fluke. That guy can ball.
Definitely.
And then you look even further back, 3 weeks prior now in the divisional game. Coleman had 22 attempts, and he put up 100 yards with 2 touchdowns. So, like, it's not just Mostert. It's the running game and its whole thing
Yeah, just
that works.
completely
And-
wasn't used.
And looking at that, Garoppolo only had 11 attempts. So it's not like he's throwing the ball a lot.
And one guy we haven't touched on yet is George Kittle. You know,
Yeah.
he's such an asset in that run game. And he honestly was kind of silent in the first 2 games of the playoffs because,
Because he was so effective
He's-
with that run game.
yeah, that outside run, he's great. So
Setting the edge. I mean, he's the best blocking tight end that I've seen in a long time.
yeah,
Who can
so
catch the ball as well.
I don't know if they were putting him out running routes and he wasn't there, or
The coverage may have been.
I don't know what was going on. What was going through Shanahan's head at that point to want to steer away from the run game? Like, was he?
Man, does he get cold feet in these games or something?
Maybe
Because
he does. I
Like
don't-
this,
and
it doesn't make
seems
sense.
to be a pattern,
And we're
at
talking
this
about
point.
it again. Like if this, it's not like this hasn't happened. He did this in a Super Bowl where he was up 28-3. So I agree. Like, I mean, he's a great coach. Like, let's not get me wrong here. They went from
And
4-12.
He's still young. He's got
Yeah.
some learning to do, but I don't know what it is. There's just something.
Well, look at this
something
right
that
here,
doesn't-
okay? George Kittle, 4 receptions, 36 yards in the Super Bowl. You got to get the ball in his hands. He's too good, right? He's too good not to touch the ball more than 4 times.
Yeah.
You put the ball in his hands, good things happen. He's bigger than your secondary. Every guy in the secondary, it's going to take 2 guys to take him down. So as soon as you get him over the linebackers, you're
Well,
looking at
and that's the
production,
thing that-
right? Even with the linebackers, he
They're
can
not
go with
putting
them.
that ball in the hands of their playmakers, right?
Yeah,
Because
that's true.
he's got Emmanuel Sanders. He's got Deebo Samuel, which they used in the first half. They came out second half. I didn't see much of Deebo.
Not after the third quarter, because it was more for the fourth quarter where
Yeah.
they just stopped after
Yeah.
they had the 10-point lead.
Mostert wasn't used. You know, there's so many guys that I feel like
It was
Kittle's the
mismanaged.
biggest one, but like they just weren't using their assets.
Yeah.
And you know, that's a problem, especially in a game that is so important like the Super Bowl. I mean,
Yeah.
how can you not want to use your best guys?
You got to stick to your identity. I mean, here I would look at this in its entirety, right? If you're the San Francisco 49ers and you go down running the ball and you lose the game, but you ran that ball, I don't know, 35 times, I'm going to say, okay, you know what? They stuck to their guns and it just wasn't their day. They got beat by a team that's prolific on offense, and it's just the way it went. But like when they went so far off script, that's where you start, like, we're questioning that right now because it's just so out of character for this team.
Well, and we saw it happen to Tennessee as well. You
Yep.
know, Derrick Henry is an amazing runner, but they just didn't give them the ball, and they ended up losing to Kansas City, who
They had a lead on.
isn't a great run-stop defense either.
Not at all.
So, I don't know if it's cold feet or they're just scared to.
Yeah. What do you think's got to change next year for the Niners to come back to this game, and like I don't think that they can be a run dominant team like they were. I think that it worked this year because I don't think anyone's seen it. Now teams have seen it. They'll know what to expect a little bit more. They can scheme against it, and then you've got a guy like Jimmy G. I mean, he's taking a lot of heat now.
See, this is my problem, is that, so just watching football, knowing football, playing football, if something works, even if they know what you're going to do, even if the other team knows exactly what you play you're running, and it works, it doesn't matter because it works.
Yeah, it's an execution game. That's all
the thing.
it is.
They, like, by midway through the season, everyone knew that San Francisco was a run-first team.
For sure.
That didn't mean they could stop them just because they knew what they were doing. So, like, I don't know if it was like they didn't want to stick to their game plan or they were trying to throw off Kansas City. But
which didn't work, obviously.
I think that alone was a huge mistake.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, you got to stick with your guns. If you go off script too much, this is the kind of end result. I mean, I expect this to happen. When you just completely throw out the game plan that's effective, and then you got a guy like Mahomes picking up the pace at the end, making the plays when they count. Damian Williams, then he ripped a runoff. So now you're looking at the Chiefs just taking it to you. And then so now if you're the Niners, right? Now at this point in the game, you find yourself well behind the eight ball when you're also just probably as a football player, right? If a team's coming back on you and you're just like, what just happened? We were up by 10 with 7 minutes left to win a Super Bowl. And now you're trailing 24-20. You get the ball back. So okay, with time, there's enough time to make it down the field, run a 4-minute offense, whatever.
And they went to the passing game.
Yeah,
Jimmy G. See, I don't know if I liked what I saw from Jimmy either, because he doesn't in that game. He didn't seem like a guy that could handle the pressure too well.
Well, he had 2 picks. He
you
did
know,
throw
like
2 picks.
I don't know, and we haven't. That's the thing. We haven't really seen much of him. The game before that, he only threw the ball 8 times. I think 6 of them were completed.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know if Jimmy is the right guy.
That's a fair point.
That could be a
That's
possibility
a fair point.
too. I'm not saying he isn't, but at the same time, it's like
So
he didn't show us much.
let me go a little bit of on a little side note here. So I came across something earlier today on social media. Skip Bayless stated, I don't know what your opinion on Skip is, but I find him very entertaining, to say the least. Skippy. And Skip's hot take today was replace Jimmy G with Tom Brady. You're only going to eat $4 million on the Garoppolo contract. Bring in Tom and bring this team back with Tom Brady. I mean, just something different, something to hear.
I don't think it's a bad idea. You know, they can still utilize that run game.
And all Tom Brady teams always were effective on the run game.
They still utilize that run game, but they have that guy to make big plays downfield.
Well, it just
needed.
looks like
You know?
Gronk Brady 2.0 with Brady and Kittle. Like,
but not to mention you give Brady weapons like Debo and Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah,
he's gonna make throws downfield.
And
no
that
question
defense,
asked.
And that defense,
like, that's a Super Bowl team.
Yeah,
and that's the thing.
So
maybe next year the change is Jimmy G. Maybe he's their guy for the next 2-3 years.
Maybe. Could you imagine though? Oh my gosh! Imagine Tom Brady taking your job after you were traded from playing with Tom Brady. Like, I mean, that's just
maybe Jimmy goes back to the Patriots.
I mean, hey, those are some of the hot takes that we're gonna be known for here on the show.
No, but I don't know if that is their major issue, but
that's some Madden stuff.
Definitely is some fixing to be done for next year.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't just come back
can't-
as a loser and not retool something.
Well, and you can't play that good all season. Make it to the Super Bowl and then just
Not play your game.
yeah.
I mean, we've
Like,
said
what-
it now
what
a
is-
few times. It's just crazy. It's mind blowing, and I mean, I think Shanahan's gonna have to answer to those questions, right? Like, what are you gonna say to the media? Like, oh yeah, just kind of,
But
I did
also
it again.
Own
Oops.
own up to the mistakes you've made, right?
Yeah,
Like you can't go and expect to believe everything that
yeah.
he says, right?
And I mean, give
So-
credit to the players. They're sticking by the guy, and they're saying, like, it sucks. Obviously, like, the Niners are sticking together here, even in defeat, which is a great sign for a team, right? I mean, you lose the game of your life, and you've got a coach who's made the same error now twice, and unfortunately, you're on the end of this. Sticking by him, I mean, it just shows that they've got a good culture there. I mean, look, you're coming off a 4-12 season to a 14-2 season. There's some massive progress being made right there.
Definitely.
The Chiefs, remember last year, they came in, they were a win away from coming to this game last year.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was a call, we all know that offside, whatever, but that ended their hopes. And you know what? They answered the bell. They came back through the adversity, and here they are, Super Bowl champs.
Yeah.
So
now another question I have is with what we've seen in the playoffs, what's happened to Richard Sherman over the last few games? You know, a few big plays in the Super Bowl,
Yep.
a few big plays in the championship game.
Yep.
Is he a guy that you're sticking with for?
I'm riding with Richard Sherman because I like how he's a gutty guy, man. Like he's out there giving it everything he's got. Has he maybe lost a step? Yes, with the Achilles tear that he did suffer. Like, I mean, that's gonna definitely impact his longevity. Like, there's no way around it. It's a devastating injury. But I mean, I like him as a leader. I like what he brings to a football team without what he does on the field. He's just a good guy to have on a team in the locker room.
Now, do you think what he does off the field, you know, the way he carries himself and talks to reporters, stuff like that, do you think that could affect the team?
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of the old Richard Sherman. I think the older that Richard gets, I think he's definitely like tamed it down in terms of, yeah, when he called out Crabtree, a sorry ass receiver, like right after they won the Super Bowl.
Which is funny you bring that up because
Yeah.
Watkins
I
jabbed back at him after the game.
yeah.
Which I thought was pretty funny.
But that's all part of it, man. You're gonna talk a little junk and you lose.
yeah.
That
If
that
you
junk's
just gotta
coming back.
take it,
And I
because-
think that's any sport, right? You're gonna get that back and forth. Now he's got this fuel to his fire. He should use it as motivation. Like, keep
Yeah,
talking
definitely.
your shit, Richard, because like, I mean, you're an all pro, you're a Super Bowl champ. The last 2 Super Bowls haven't gone your way, but I mean, keep doing your thing out there, man.
Yeah.
I enjoy him. I do enjoy him. I'm a fan.
And speaking of Sammy, so there was some talks about him possibly taking a year off after if they win the Super Bowl. Now they've won the Super Bowl. Do
Yes.
you think he
Gonna
is
sit
going
back
to
and chill?
take a year off and chill out, as he said?
I would like
Or-
to take a year off and chill out.
I mean, yeah, it would be nice, but
I mean, especially
if they're going back to the if they're a contender for another Super Bowl,
so. Here's my take.
are you
on it.
taking a year off,
Here's-
or are you?
Here's my take on it. Who else has done this recently? Rob Gronkowski, right?
Yeah.
He said it before he actually did retire. I might not come back. I might not come back. But I think when you play with a guy like Mahomes, when you play with a guy like Brady, and you realize, wow, man, like I am really playing with a great, like an all-time great, because I think Mahomes is going to be an all-time great. Look, the kid's already thrown for 50 touchdowns in a season. He's got his MVP in the regular season, Super Bowl MVP. He had 5 comebacks this year, down 10 points. Like, unbelievable. Like, this isn't just.
Yeah, he's
a
a talent, very talented.
I think he's. I mean,
guy,
what if he wins another one? That's already 2, and he's only 24. So I mean, when you look at it as a Sammy Watkins, out of his eyes, I think if your body's feeling good, if your mental is okay, I would come back. And I mean, he has said some things about maybe going and trying to win a Super Bowl elsewhere, blah blah blah. You do know though that like the Chiefs will probably ask him to take a pay cut because they will only have about 16 million in cap this year.
Well, and I think it may be something we see more of in the future, just with all the knowledge now that we have with the head trauma and major injuries like that, the damage these guys do to their bodies.
Absolutely.
I think in the future it might be something that we definitely see more of, because if you take that year off, let your body
Look at
heal
Marshawn
itself,
Lynch.
and you come back stronger than ever, you may be able to play for 10 seasons instead of 6.
Yeah.
Or like look at a guy like Luke Kuechly. If
Yeah.
he would have taken a season off, would he be?
I mean, you never know. He
would
might
he
come
be
back. He might
You
come
never
back.
know, right? Or
Yeah.
luck, or there's plenty of good examples that we're seeing.
And I mean, yeah, absolutely. But let's wrap up the Super Bowl itself. I know we kind of just went off there a little bit on a little side note, but back to the game. Jimmy G misses that downfield pass to Emmanuel Sanders. It would have put them on the 5 if he was even touched on the way down. If you put them on the 5 with the run game that they have, and it's 24-20. I'm really. I mean, it's going to be hard for you to convince me that they don't score 7 on that possession there.
Well, and that's why I'm thinking, is Jimmy the guy? Because that was a crucial throw that he should have made.
Yeah, he had the time in the
that
pocket.
Game, I get it's the Super Bowl, but if you're not cut out for it,
Well, the other
then
thing,
you really gotta show yourself. You really gotta make
step
sure
up.
you're making
you got to step up.
those wide open throws.
Even if he puts it close to Sanders and Sanders can draw PI. Because if he's touched and that ball's just near him, he didn't even have a chance to get hands on it. So at least if it's not on the money, it's got to be closer than 5 yards overthrown.
Yeah.
And I mean, look at that next play. He's sacked, right? Like it was like, or he was called in the grass. And then the Chiefs get the ball back, and Damian Williams busts off a nice like 30-something yard
run,
exactly.
up the sideline.
And that's game. That's ball game. Like
Yeah.
signed, sealed, delivered. Lombardi's going back to Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's the end of the game. You're looking at Andy Reid finally getting a Super Bowl after 21 seasons. He's got over 200 career wins. I mean, congrats to Andy.
Yeah,
well deserved.
definitely.
I mean, like, what do you think of a guy putting all that life's work, finally getting what you chase every year?
Well, I mean, 21 years in the league, coached for two different teams. I think he's got it. You know, like he's got to be a
Hall
good
of Famer.
coach. Guys love him. I think he deserves it. Like, great on him.
Yeah.
He did very well. You know, but it goes to show also, to build something like this takes time.
Yeah, not everyone's a patriot.
No, but even the Patriots, it took them time.
Yeah.
You know, you find the right pieces at the right time. You know, it works.
Yeah.
So, congratulations to Andy Reid. You know, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Let's look ahead next year. Either of these two teams coming back,
I think for sure Kansas City.
even with Baltimore possibly being that roadblock. I mean, Lamar's learned a lot this year. He's coming off an MVP season. It kind of looks a little bit like how the Chiefs and Mahomes advanced this year. What could possibly happen with Baltimore next year? You got a kid who just won his MVP, and now he's got a little bit more control of his like the league and everything, and maybe he'll take that next step. And we got a good battle in that AFC for a long time.
Who knows? I think there's definitely some solid young quarterbacks coming up to lead teams.
Absolutely.
Definitely, you know, you look at a few guys. Definitely Patrick Mahomes,
Yep.
Lamar Jackson.
Then look at guys like
I think Josh Allen.
I was just gonna say Josh Allen,
Not that
Danny
I'm-
Dimes over in New York. You never know.
yeah. Well, I don't know if he
He's got the stuff.
showcases the
We'll
stuff.
see. We'll
but-
see. He's got a new offensive coordinator now.
So I think there's definitely potential. I think we'll see some older guys retire shortly,
Yeah.
and you know, it's maybe time for a new generation, which
Which is fun. Change in sports is fun. It happens, but it's good to see new talent coming up the pipeline. Thank you all for tuning in to the first episode of the Gridiron Gods. We really, really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Follow us at Gridiron Gods on Twitter and Instagram, and then check us out for the podcast on YouTube, as well as check out our Facebook page, Gridiron Gods.
Thanks for watching, folks, and we'll catch you next week.
Remember, say your prayers. The gods are listening.